Me?
All right, what's up, everybody? How are y'all? If you can do me a favor, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the chat. Can you hear us well? Can you see us well? How everything's
Hmm.
going? I want to make sure that we are conveying the correct message. Make sure that you do share this. Make sure you share this broadcast. We are going to answer some questions tonight. We're going to make sure that we speak to you, kind of bounce off of each other, not no real set deal. We are currently in our first love series. Yeah, cool. So I do have to say this. Of course, we are in our first love series, and so we're dealing with love from a whole different perspective, a whole different point of view, and so I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what we're going to do, what we're going to talk about. Let me know in the chat. Hit me up in the chat real quick. I want to say hello. Let me know who's watching, so that way I can speak back. We can speak back to you as you come in. Say hello, share it, put it everywhere you go. But let us know. Let us know that you're watching. Let us know that you're tuning in and where you're watching
Perfect.
from.
Jennifer
Um,
said loud and clear.
Let us know. Say hello. Say hello. If you have any questions, make sure that you do drop that in the chat as well. So that way we can make sure that we do answer all of that as well. All right.
Hmm.
So like I said, keep sharing. Keep letting us know. Say hello real quick. I see a couple of you
Hey,
coming in,
Jen.
and I know we have. I've received some questions already. Um, I've already received some questions concerning uh, the different things we're going to talk about. So if you already don't know, my name is Pastor Joshua Campbell. I'm the lead pastor of God's Nation here in Denton, Texas. And then, of course, we have Lady E.
Hi,
Uh,
everybody.
so this is a big deal. I want to make sure we have this. Let's see here. So we do have a couple of questions, and so I want to know what you want to talk about. I'm gonna be right back. Let me get this together. There we go. All right, so I want to see here. A couple questions we have. It looks like a couple people asked the same question. Now, to those on YouTube, hello to you too. I'm telling you, even if you are on YouTube or you are actually on Facebook, I want you to put your comments in the put your questions in the comments, everything. But I want to know what you want to hear. First love. So a lot of people are looking at this as something that we should talk about relationships and that we should talk about some about even different things. And so I want to know your questions. Let me get to the actual questions that were sent in to us. You had some pretty interesting ones. Um, and I'm gonna say this too. Uh, the truth of the matter is that lady and I we're not a perfect marriage, not a perfect marriage, but we are a
By
thriving
far.
and we're not a perfect marriage, but we're definitely a happy marriage. We're a healthy marriage, and we're not happy. We're not a happy marriage because every day we're just so excited and so happy and so giddy and everything. And I'm gonna be honest. I mean we do have some not bad days, but I think we can say we had some rough days and some rough experiences.
There are bad days in marriage. There are good days and bad days. But
Yeah, I
those
mean,
bad days are definitely learning experiences.
yeah. No,
Um,
I definitely agree. I definitely agree that they are learning experiences.
mhm.
Do you think that there is a such thing as a perfect marriage?
No, I don't. I don't think that there's a such thing as a perfect marriage. Is that something that somebody asked?
No, I just wonder.
Oh, well, no. I mean, the answer remains the same. I don't. I don't think there's a such thing as a perfect marriage, and the reason why I don't think that there's a such thing as a perfect marriage is because if you look at the comparison that is in the Word, he compares um, the church and Christ. That's a comparison to
Yeah,
what
marriage,
marriage
husband, wife.
is. And yes, he's coming back for a church without a spot or wrinkle, but that means that there were spots and wrinkles before those were erased. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, no, I don't think that there's such thing as perfect marriage.
I agree. And I don't think there's a such thing as a perfect marriage because also, like she said, there's no perfect people.
Mhm.
So since there's no perfect people, I don't think that there is a possibility that it could be a perfect
Thank you,
marriage.
Tiana.
Um, yeah, as you can see, I love on her a lot. Apparently, I, giving her babies, praise the Lord. Um,
I was about to say obviously. About to say obviously.
but either way, here's a question that was asked though. The question is, how did you know that he or she was the one? So how did you know I was the one? Now that I know you were one, you can go first with that.
No, you can. You go first.
Mine's a little drawn out. The reason why I knew she was the one, and y'all gotta stay with me with this. The reason why I knew that lady was the one for me was because number one, she was one of the only ones that I couldn't spit game to. That's number one. It was something different. I couldn't get my words together or anything like that, and I'm not gonna get all mushy, but I couldn't really spit game to her. But it is what it is. I knew that was a big sign, but also because it was just totally different, but also because I had a conversation with my grandfather, which is a great spiritual insight and spiritual father to us. I had a great conversation with him, and the thing was, we talked about. I asked him. I said, "How did you know that Granny was
Hi,
the one?"
Junior.
What's up, everybody? I said, "How did you know that Granny was the one?" I mean, they've been married for over 45 years or so. I mean, so and they've been together for
Long
longer than
time.
that. And so you don't see that nowadays. So
Mm-hmm.
I asked, how did you know that she was the one? And he went through this whole spiel of how it was love at first sight and how you know she's the one because it's just like your whole world stopped. It can be 1,000 people in a room, but she's the only one that you see, and that all this different stuff. And I was just like, Poppy, that sounded good or whatever, but that's old school. That don't happen no more. Lo and behold, lady and I, now we were friends already. We were our story is a little interesting. Now, but the first time we met in person, I was like so mesmerized, like to the point where we were in a church. I'm not gonna lie to you, we were in a church in Grand Prairie, Grand Prairie. We were in a church, and I was sitting with the preachers and with the pastors. She walked in the building, and before I even saw her, laid eyes on her, it felt like my heart stopped. My heart stopped, and I was like, I took a big deep breath, and when I saw her walk in, it literally was like the whole room stopped and nobody else was in the room besides her. And I immediately, my
Yeah.
eyes were locked on her from the time she got in the door to the time she sat down. Then I ended up having to sit down because I was like, okay, I can't take this. But I mean, it really was love at first sight when it came to me.
For me, I mean, we had already been friends before, basically friends through certain associates, and so first time actually getting to meet in person because, granted, at this age we didn't have license, we didn't have,
Ooh.
we didn't have no job,
Lady and I
we
have been
didn't
together
have,
for it'll be 8 years this year that we've been together. So
yeah, wow,
it's it's crazy.
eight
8 years.
years. I mean, I forgot. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't forget, but just to think about.
I'm sorry. Look at this. Look
Bless
at
you,
it.
bless you.
Bless you. I'm sorry. My brother. Whenever my brothers or my family come in, it's just hilarious to me because
Hey, Joe.
we can never stay serious.
But it definitely was the same way for me, except I didn't see Pastor when I came in the room. It was almost like it was the it was almost like the Holy Ghost or somebody shook me when I got in there because I went in.
Right, 8 long years.
Right, Justy. But I went into the the service that he's the same exact. Uh, hey, beautiful and passive. I'm sorry. I went into the same exact service that he's talking about, and I didn't see him yet, but I did stumble because I was so nervous, and I just felt him there. I felt his presence in the place, and so my sister looked at me. And she's like, "Are you okay?" You know, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." I really wasn't. Um, I really wasn't. You know. there. I was there, but I wasn't there.
And don't forget
I
that you almost failed too.
That's what I said.
You almost tripped. You tripped.
I said that,
Yeah.
and then she was like, "Are you okay?" But either way, seeing him, it was just I really don't know what it was, but that wasn't what told me he was the one because that was an inexperience actually.
Oh, wait. So you feel like that about everybody? That same old thing? I'll play.
No. Now, I didn't have that experience with anyone else, but that wasn't the experience that told me he was the one. The it took me. Pastor knew from the get go. He was.
I did.
This is my wife.
I no to the point where she was talking talking to another dude at the time, and we were friends. I told her, I said, "Go ahead." I said, "You fine." I said, actually, even after that, I think you were talking. She started talking to some other dude. I said, "Go ahead." I think I know you're gonna be my wife anyway, so go ahead. You can do that. I was bold. I was honest. I was bold. I was just like, "Hey, it is what it is. I know what's mine. Go have fun."
And granted, I was not the kind of girl to just talk to anybody.
Nah, she wasn't.
So I was already on very strict standards, very strict who I talked to just to begin with in the first place. But yes, I did. I had a friend that I was talking to, or not a friend, but there was an associate, or if you would say a closer friend at the time, then um, he was per se, because I had known that person a little bit longer, and that was just somebody that I was friends with, and he just was like, "Oh, I don't see any competition there because you're my wife anyway." So, but what showed me was what I prayed for, what I listed down on my personal, what I wanted from God, what I needed from Him. Um, if I were to get a spouse, at this age, at this time, I was young, and I would always pray for a person that when I get married, Lord, please let me have somebody that I can grow with. So I really wanted to be able to grow up with this person. I wanted to be able to share different experiences with this person. But not only that, I wanted somebody who could cover me spiritually. And so at that age, I think I was 16? I had already had my list, and I was praying about that. And he matched my list. Um, and for me, I was like, woo, this is it. This is it. So, but it did. It took me longer than it took Pastor.
Yeah, and it's crazy though that it really did take her longer than I, because you wouldn't think it would, especially being a dude, but it did. I'm gonna say this too, just for clarity. Our story may not be your story. So just because you don't have that whole story time type of experience, it doesn't mean
Hey, Rod.
that it's not going to happen for you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, she just like, and the crazy thing was, we just so happened to have to be at the same service on the same day at the same time, and it was just over from there.
That's just how it was.
It was over from there.
That was our experience.
So here's another question. We ask this: how do you help each other grow in your purposes? I'm gonna say the way that you do that. It's a very great question. I would say, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Right.
But I'm gonna say, the way that you push each other in purpose is by understanding that your purposes are not against each other. Your purpose, if they are the one for you, you're not supposed to fight each other. So her living out her purpose that God's called her to do is not a threat to the purpose that God has put on my life.
Right.
Yeah, and that's something that many marriages and couples unfortunately do not understand. A lot of marriages, and I will say this: be careful with getting married or getting in a relationship or anything with somebody who is gifted. If they have a great purpose or a great gift, be careful, because if you're not ready to handle that weight mentally or emotionally, you end up messing up a lot of things, because you'll start to think that their purpose is, or you'll be intimidated by their purpose and think that their purpose is actually a threat against who you are, what you want, what you need, and you end up actually fighting against that and holding them to what you think they should be for you.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, the biggest thing with us, I would say the biggest way that you push somebody in the way that they're supposed to go is by keeping a open line of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Keep communication open. That's the biggest thing. That's the best thing, because there's certain times where I'm gonna say this openly. Me and Lady have talked, and we've had discussions and everything where it literally felt like we were against each other. It felt like we were not on the same page. It felt like we
Yep.
were fighting against each other. It felt like she was protecting herself against me. I was
Mm-hmm.
protecting myself against her. And we like, hold on. This is not the reason why we got married. We did not get married to defend ourselves against each other. We did not get
Right.
married to keep on fighting and to
Yeah.
feel like, oh, in order for me to be, I'm gonna say like this, in order
Or
for
for
me to
me
be
to
a
be.
pastor, then she got to stop singing or
No.
stop being an artist, or in
Mm-mm.
order for her to be an artist, she can't be with a pastor. No,
No.
that is totally contrary to what the
To
purpose of God is. The purpose of God is too big for me to just complete it on my own. There's a reason why the Bible describes her as a help meet. Get that?
mm-hmm.
She is a help meet. I cannot do what I'm doing or who I am on my own. She can't do it on her own. She is, I'm going to say this clearly. She is a better part of me. She is the one that is not complete. Don't get me wrong. She's not completing me. She does not complete me, but she is a better part of me. She's the one who's getting me to where God wants me to be. My vow to her, honestly, I'm gonna say this. My vow to her was that I was gonna do it, and I'm gonna get into the next question in just a minute because I got to answer that one.
I need
But
to.
before I complete
I
that
want to answer
statement,
this.
I'm gonna get that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I wanted to just tag on to what he said when it comes to, um, even when he's talked about our experiences. Because yes, there has been times where it's like what you're talking about does not sound like anything that I'm talking about. What you're saying doesn't sound.
Marriage.
What you're saying doesn't sound anything like what I'm talking about. But then when it comes to prayer, when you actually have a relationship with God and I'm not saying that everything's always going to be answered right that second. No, because it does take communication for you in a marriage to actually, you have to actually drive halfway to where that person is. You know how, okay, if you have to meet somebody with something, they say, what's the halfway point? Why? Because both of you are trying to find a place where it's most convenient for you to meet, where it's not going to take that person too far or out of their comfort zone. Not really just out of their comfort zone, but where it won't take them out of the way. And you're considering, number one, when you're doing that, when you're figuring out a halfway point, you're number one considering how the other person feels about how far you both have to travel.
Yeah.
And so when it comes down to actually putting that or applying that same concept to our marriage, you have to be willing to communicate. If you're a person that just doesn't like to talk, be willing to communicate with your spouse. If you're a person who talks all the time, then the halfway point for you is to listen to the other spouse or to listen to the spouse that doesn't really talk all the time. So just so that you can come to a place where even if you don't agree or even if you don't understand, you at least know, okay, Lord, this is how my spouse feels. Help me to understand them on that level. Help me to understand them beyond my own understanding. Like, I
Yeah.
need your understanding because you made them. You know what's going through their mind. And even still, you do have to be careful. I remember there was one incident that Pastor and I had experienced, and he told me that, you know, well, it was a certain person that just was like, y'all are not on the same page. And all of a sudden, I immediately got on defense, like,
Well,
hold
no,
up.
no, no. They said we were not on the same page. They said that we were going against each other, and they said a
Right.
whole bunch of other stuff.
Right, that we're going against each other, this and that. And immediately,
I'm gonna say this
because,
too. Be careful who you get advice from.
right, I'm glad.
And be careful when you get advice that doesn't line up with the culture of your house, and then you keep that to yourself, and then you make that as a target by saying,
Or a
"Oh, you're getting
statement.
mad or whatever." Be careful with all that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. So, either way, you definitely, when we experience that, I immediately, because my heart is in the right place concerning my marriage, Although I did not know that information until later, I knew something was off because my heart concerning my marriage was in the correct place. And what I mean by that is I was not telling God, God, let this go my way because I wanted to go my way. No, I was saying, Lord, please, whatever your purpose is, whatever your will is for our marriage, help us to get there. Help us to get to that place. Help us to get to the place where we can do it together. Help us to get to that place
Exactly.
where we can help each other get from help us to get to glory to glory, from faith to faith. You know, helping each other, help us to sharpen each other in those areas. And what had to happen was we of course had to communicate. Now, Pastor doesn't, when it comes to our relationship, Pastor's not that, like, he doesn't talk as much as he does when he's talking to everybody else. So he'll talk and he'll say a whole bunch of stuff, but then when Pastor's really thinking, especially if it's about something that he's concerned about or whatever, he'll be quiet. And so what I had to learn how to do, being the person that speaks the most when it comes to just our friendship, our relationship has been like that for years. I've had to just be like, okay, whatever you need to say, I'm listening. And the Lord allowed that part to be exposed because that was a seed that was sown into his heart, because that's what it looked like. But because both of our hearts were in the same place, or were in the correct place regarding our marriage and the purpose of our marriage, we were open to God or to even each other,
Yeah.
you know, in listening, like, hey, this is why we were bumping heads. Not because we really don't, but there was a seed sown and we were both willing to change it. So,
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this and we go to the next question, but I have to write this down too because I had to realize, and here's something I had to really realize. I had to realize that I received the seed that was sown by word of mouth, and I allowed it to be planted into my spirit. I didn't tell her, but I was trying so hard to fight it and to prove them wrong that it actually caused a problem in our marriage. And she didn't know why. Honestly, I didn't know why because I was overlooking it, but I allowed the seed to be planted in my mind, in my spirit, in my heart,
mm-hmm.
and thinking that she was against me. It made me feel like I was alone, I was by myself. And it's like, yo, once we start talking, and I was like, hold on, this is what was said, this is what happened. And it was like, so you mean to tell
Hey,
me
Leah.
could have actually, this could not have been a problem in the first place if we would have communicated properly.
Mm-hmm.
But my failure to communicate caused conflict.
Yeah.
That was the issue.
And
My
it caused
failure
the same seeds that were being planted. See,
to manifest.
the goal for the enemy is to destroy the union. And so
Yeah.
the same seeds that I'm alone, I'm by myself, and that was the same thing I started feeling. That was the same thing that
Yeah.
I started um to plant. Listen, if anybody knows me, I am a very independent person. If don't nobody get it done, I'm gonna get it done. You know, that's just how I was raised, but that's not a correct mentality to have in your marriage with someone that you should be able to trust with your entire life. And so I began to snap into a mode that was like, oh, so since you gonna be feeling like that, I feel by myself. And
Right.
I'm feeling by myself. So the enemy's goal was to break us apart, but the communication, the time spent, and most of all, we know each other enough that we know where to pull the line back in.
Yeah.
We know when to reel it
Because
back
thankfully
in.
we were friends and then best friends before we even got into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to go to the next one. And also, just to answer that question in a more plainly manner, the reason why we can make sure that she fulfills her purpose and I fulfill my purpose is because we remember that although we're married to each other, we don't own each other. That's what we got to remember. But here's the thing. Another question was, let me get to it. Okay. So the question was, how do you separate ministry from marriage? Here's the thing. It's not an easy thing to say, but you don't. There is no. It says marriage is your first ministry.
Now, if you're asking, how do you separate church
quote unquote,
from marriage? That's a whole nother
question. You're not supposed to. When it comes to
what
when
do you
it
mean by that?
because if the Bible says to love your wife as Christ has loved the church, he loved her consistently every single time, all the time. He loved her consistently all the time. He showed his love, his compassion. He was willing to die for his bride. You hear me? And so, ladies, if your guy or your dude, your boo, your bae, your whatever you want to call the dude, if he ain't willing to die for you and put his life on the line for your love and who you are, he ain't the one. Then you know now. Listen? Do I have any guys in the comments right now that can actually send up some hearts or likes right there to just give me amen? Like to the point where you're willing to do whatever it takes for your girl. Like it doesn't matter. Like you as a man have to make sure you are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure your girl, your family, number one, your family is taken care of and they have what they need. All right.
Oh, and the show got on. Hey, Auntie.
Auntie, listen. Here's a question that was asked: how do you balance it all out with you being a pastor and Lady E traveling?
Well, here's the thing: remember to come back and make sure you have time for each other.
Here's the truth. You got to honestly. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this before you go.
Okay.
The biggest thing is you have to identify what balance means to you and your household, because our balance may not be the same balance everybody else have, because our tolerance level may be different.
Because listen, I'm just going to say, this is the only... When you have spent time away from your spouse, for me, it's time away means when I get back, I'm going to have to spend some time with my spouse because I really, really, really missed them while I was away. And it's just, you prioritize it. You have to prioritize the time that you have with your spouse when you get back to your spouse.
Yeah.
Yes, traveling has definitely slowed down so much for me. Number one, because of COVID-19. Number two, I am pregnant. So I cannot.
It works.
I cannot travel as much as I was at first. But it definitely takes a level of prioritizing. You have to know when to sit down, when to spend the time with your spouse. You have to prioritize that time because you'll start to notice that your life will feel a little dry and weary. You know, if you don't if you don't get that time in with your spouse, if you don't spend time just admiring and loving on your spouse, like you won't.
No, I agree, and I think one thing that helps us out too is the fact that whenever she does go out of town, or whenever I go out of town, whenever she comes back, or whenever I come back, I usually have some kind of gift for her. So I usually, I mean, there's been times when I have baby boy just to write something on the paper or something, and we give it as a card to her, because I mean, yeah, I want her to know I love her. Listen, and you got to think, I'm somebody. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my church family. There are certain times I like being by myself. I like some alone time.
Me too.
And she doesn't, and that's just how it is. But what I do is I make sure whenever she grants me that, whether that's me having a couple hours just to go pray, or a couple hours just to go really nothing. I mean, because I'm more of a production dude, so she gets on me all the time about being on my phone looking at videos, whatever. But it's just what it is. But if she give me time to go do that, then that means that I have to be intentional about making sure that our time together is meaningful. Because and here's the thing, even if you have a lot of time together or you don't have a lot of time together, it won't matter if you don't have any quality time. That's one instance that quality it actually overrules quantity. Mm-hmm. So whether I have 2 minutes or I have 2 hours with her, I'm going to make sure that time together is going to be meaningful. Mm-hmm. Because if I do, then while she is away, then she has something to look forward to coming back to.
Right.
But if I'm dogging her out the whole time and we ain't kicking it,
and really,
or whatever,
you don't have to be dogging a person out for the time to just not be quality time.
Right.
You literally can just be doing something that has nothing to do with appreciating that person's presence.
Exactly.
And it can still be just as, just as bad. What'd you say?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because here's
Glory
the
to God, Miss
now I will
Rose.
say this though. The way that you make sure you stay on the same page is by learning. I'm not saying don't. I'm not listen. Don't know. Learn your partner's love language.
Yeah, it
It
changes
changes.
all the time. Right now, my love language is probably Pastor
No, no, no,
said
no,
something to me.
no. My wife's love language. Let me get in the camera. Let me tell you what my wife's love language is, especially right now. My wife's love language is tacos from Dairy Queen. There it is. That's her love language at this very moment. Like I almost never mind.
He's gonna go
I,
give me some tacos from Dairy Queen today because I really was gonna stop there on my way from get my nails done.
I didn't have
Oh!
time to go and do it though. But I mean, I see you got. I noticed her love language, especially right now. I called her the other day. I know what your love language is. She said what? She said I told her. I said tacos from Dairy Queen. And listen, I'm not trying to put them out. I wish they were sponsoring this video, but they not. But I'm just gonna say, if you never had no tacos from Dairy Queen, you want some Tex-Mex, not authentic, but Tex-Mex
The
tacos.
tacos from Dairy Queen are
Able
so
Taco Bell
good.
and Taco Bell and Jack in the Box, all
Oh
of them blow them
my
out the
gosh!
water.
Jack in the Box has nothing
Tia
on.
talking about amen and I'm not pregnant.
Right.
Listen,
Uh-oh.
it's a serious deal, but it's one of those things where it's one of those things where it's one of those things where you gotta learn it. Don't just know it because you gotta. And this is one thing that my grandfather shared with me that I didn't understand at the beginning. But it's important that you continuously learn your spouse. No, it's not. You continuously learn your spouse. Do not hold your spouse to what you've already known about them or what you think they should be or how they should be. Listen, don't even hold them to who they were when you married them. I'm sorry to say it. Don't hold them to who they were when you were dating and or anything. They have chicken tacos. I don't know about that. I don't mess with too many people chicken tacos. I like that beef taco. Praise the Lord. But I mean, it's a big deal. Make sure, and this is not just for those who are married. This is for the marriage. This is for those who are dating. Let me say it like this: those who are married, those who are engaged, those who are dating, those who are waiting, and those who are in love with themselves.
Right.
Because everybody's not called to be married. Everybody don't want to get married. Some people are actually okay with themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let me tell you this now: if you are okay with not getting married, do not get married just to
You
make
don't have
this
to.
status quo.
Yeah, you just don't. You don't have to. It's okay. It really is.
You ain't.
And honestly, when you are in that place, that's the best place to be in. You know, when it comes to singleness, just
So
being
y'all,
okay with your singleness.
so everybody knew about the tacos, and didn't nobody say nothing. Look,
They have chicken tacos.
No, she asked, but Tad talking about, oh yeah, those are slamming, and Tina saying, yeah. So all y'all knew it. Y'all ain't okay.
Hey, Yana.
Wait. So I mean, but that's a big thing. I don't want you to feel like you have to get married. Paul even says, if you don't have to get married, be like me. I wish all of you would be like me. But if you can't take it, get married. That's what Paul said. So if you can't handle it, get married. If you feel like you need to get married, get married.
And it doesn't mean that getting married is bad.
No, I like being married, quite frankly. And I will say this: I know, and a lot of people will always often say, because even Scripture talking about it's better to marry than to burn. The thing is, the Bible says it's better to marry than to burn with passion, because there's another Scripture that says that He gave them over to their own passion or own lust. Mm-hmm. So it's better to marry than to suffer or burn with lust. So that doesn't
just mean that just don't mean just sex or just there are things that people have been given over to their passion because they idolize something over God, and a lot of the time I think we have just looked at that scripture. Oh, it's better to marry than to burn. Don't have sex before marriage.
End up marrying the wrong person and still getting burned.
And still because you it's a sad day for people.
I mean, it's sad.
It's a sad day for people when he has to give them over to what they desire more than what his will is for their lives.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, it's just better to do what he's calling you to do is really what we're saying in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
I mean,
Next question.
right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
What was it? What was
Here's
it?
the next one.
I
How do
didn't
you
hear.
make sure you spend enough time with your family?
Still working on that one.
Yeah, still working. We have not perfected that, especially with us having a new family.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids are really young. I mean, we have a almost 2 year old, and then we have the baby. They'll be here in a
Still
couple of weeks.
bacon.
And the biggest thing, honestly, we're still perfecting that. I don't think there's no perfect way to do anything, but I will say that what I am learning and discovering is the best way to do it is to always include them. Don't force them, but include them.
Included.
Include them. Give them opportunity. Like my son now, although I am a pastor, if you know anything about church families and first family, they automatically assume that the kids, or at least one or all 10 of the kids, are going to be a preacher. I did not. I'm not making that or forcing that on my kids. None of my kids. I'm not forcing that on my kids. If they feel the calling of ministry on their life, then I'm telling them to go with it. And I'm covering them. I'm going to be here for them and be here with them. If they decide that that's not their calling, then I'm not going to force it or say that you're wrong and you're going to hell. My thing is that I'm welcoming them. I'm encouraging them, and I'm letting them have the opportunity to actually say or believe what the Lord is saying. Although I'm their father, get this, I'm their father. I'm here to lead them and to guide them. I am not here to make them a copy of me. And
Mm-hmm.
so, with that being the case, I'm including my kids, or including my son right now, in what we do. If you, some of you may have seen videos where I was on live and I would dance, and he'll come out of the room and start dancing with me. I mean, to the point where now he looks for it. He knows his daddy. He knows how to act. He knows that the word please gets whatever he wants
Anything.
every time.
Anything. You
It's
say
just
please.
the sweet voice and
Yeah,
everything. It
we'll
just gets
take
him.
anything.
But I mean, to the point where he now, if he see me with a mic or whatever, he wants a mic so he can preach behind me. If he see the lady with a mic, he wants a mic so he can sing with her. He wants to dance. He wants to do all this, and it's not because we forced him. It's just because we've
That's
included him.
he likes what it is that we he likes what it is that we do, and of course it's in him in some kind of way.
He has perfect
But
pitch.
yeah, that he has perfect pitch. He's
He's not even
born.
two.
Yeah, and that's just it's in him in some kind of way. So, but either way, we include him in making time for our family. I would say making time for the family. I definitely advice that I would personally give what has worked is when you shut off all devices.
That's a big
Shut
deal.
off, the outside world and actually spend time with your children. Spend time with your spouse. Both making sure that both spouses are present in the moment for your kid. If it's building blocks for them, um, if what you have to do, is to expand on that moment or expound on that moment to make it memorable, then close down your phone, build the blocks with them. Or if the day is about dad, then let's all go do what dad likes to do. Or if the day is about mommy, let's all go do what mommy likes to do. And let's enjoy it. Let's actually be there. Let's try to see why they like to do this or that and the
Yeah.
other. Because if you don't spend time, they start to feel alone, even at a younger age.
And
So,
that can become a complex.
but at this age that our child is at, like Pastor said, it's a little bit challenging, but it's for me because I was a preschool teacher. So anything that he does that may be small to us, but is big for him, I always try to make sure both of us participate in that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes Pastor may not notice because Pastor has not been around as many toddlers as I
And
have,
did not have a desire
and
either.
did not want to be around that many toddlers. But for me, that's a gift for me. I
It
love
really is.
babies. I love kids, and so I notice different things for them that make moments memorable. Whether that's getting up and dancing to a song for 3 minutes and then be done, or whether that's you know sitting down or looking at his blocks or two of the blocks that he built and say, "Oh my goodness, what is that?" Whatever it is, as far as spending time and really just honing in on it, really embracing it, because they can tell anybody,
Yeah,
all
and
three
this is
of
not just
us.
for like the regular marriage or married couple home. This is also for single parents
Mm-hmm.
as well. There's definitely ways that you can do it, and I will say this to before we go on to the next question. The biggest thing is you have to be careful with how you allow them to be apart. If you're always complaining about them being around, if you're always complaining or making it seem like they are inconvenience, or
They're
even
not
what
gonna
you're
want
doing
to.
for them or around them is an
Hi,
inconvenience,
Lucretia.
then it's going to be a problem. They're not going to want to have anything to do with
Mm-hmm.
that, and sooner or later, they're not going to want to do anything with you either. And
Right.
so you want to be careful of that and be cautious that you set the right example for them to, in the path for them to go down. That's a big
Yes.
deal.
Yes. It
Hey, Lucretia,
is.
good evening.
Um, it definitely is. It's a big deal. But yes, I completely, when it comes to being a single parent, I'm sure that it's a lot more challenging. Have never been a single parent, but spending most of the time with our toddlers because Pastor works, and now, I'm more on the side of I have to be taking care per se of him,
Yeah,
majority of the
and
time
Tyler
during
doesn't
the
understand the
day.
meaning of working from home.
Yeah, so I have to sometimes close the door, and what I have to do when I'm alone, even if I'm vacuum cleaning, he'll come and vacuum clean with me.
Yeah.
Or if we're cleaning up, I make it out of a game. Be creative, get creative, so that you can still get what you need done by yourself done. But you can still also, make them feel like I'm not a problem.
Right,
So,
right, right.
yeah.
Listen, if you have questions, if you have any more questions, put it in the comments so that way we can answer those. Put it in the chat as well. Here's another question. It's asking, how do you communicate when you are upset with your spouse? That's a great question.
Woo!
Remember, it says
Communicate
communicate.
correctly.
It says communicate. It doesn't say talk. It says
Yeah.
communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, remember that communication is not just done with your mouth, with your words. It's also done with your actions and with your body language.
Mm-hmm.
And so, here's the thing: Lady E and I, we come from two different backgrounds. Her family was more matriarchic, and my family was more patriotic. I would say this: in order for you to properly communicate, you first have to understand, first of all, not just when you're mad, but when she's mad at me, or when I think she's mad at me, I have to first consider and wonder if she's really mad or not. Because her family is used to talking loudly. My family, we didn't do that. So with her, there's a lot of times where I felt like she was fussing.
Yeah, I'm
Still,
just
sometimes
talking.
I feel like she's fussing and she's screaming and I'm like, babe, why are you yelling? And she
Yeah, I'm not.
she like, babe, I'm not. I'm just talking. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Well, to me, it kind of sounds like you're yelling. But I mean, so we got to, first of all, in order for you to communicate,
You have to know where that person comes from.
you have to know the language of your spouse.
Yes.
Because if you do not, saying the right thing the wrong way will still give
It will
over or
set
convey
your
the wrong
entire
message.
marriage ablaze. It'll go just completely all the way, just completely left.
Did you hear that?
Just doesn't. The
Listen.
thing is, this is another easy way that the enemy can just creep right on in. He don't even have to knock. He can just, all you doing is opening the door and be like, "Oh yeah, come on." It's so easy for the enemy to get in, through that kind of way, because honestly, like Pastor said, the way that our families communicate, I came from a different place than he did, and he came from a different place than I did. And so what we had to do again is
Not on three to my city.
We had
For all you East Texas people out there.
816 to my city.
And for those of you who are Lobos and Bulldogs, Mavericks, it's the Marshall Mavericks. I know some of y'all on there. Right, fiery darts.
But listen, no, that's honestly, like I was saying, we had to honestly take the cards we were dealt, because not only when you get married do you have to communicate, but you have to be accountable. So when it comes to not only when you get married do you have to communicate, but you have to be accountable. And what I mean by that is self accountability. And what I'm trying to say, even to further elaborate on that, is you can't use the excuse because this is where I came from. I'm just gonna communicate like this.
And
You cannot. You can't use that excuse.
Girl,
even though we have an understanding, a mutual understanding that hey, this may come out like this because this is where he's from, and he may have an understanding. Hey, this may come out like this because this is where she's from. Your goal is always to make sure your marriage is successful in any way. And the moment you become selfish and say, I'm just going to communicate this way because this is the way that I was raised, this is how I was taught, this is what I'm going to do, you start to marry or create a covenant with yourself outside of your spouse, causing you to still operate almost in the sense of spiritual adultery when it comes to what you want. And it makes you emotionally cheat on your spouse because it's not
ain't just physical.
You don't have to. You don't have to cheat with another person. Sometimes it can be the selfishness of your own selfishness can drive you to a place where it locks your spouse out of that covenant that you've created. So basically, what you have to do is in these situations, I'm not going to say that again. We have not perfected anything because every day you learn something. And one thing I have learned is that you cannot say, this is how I'm going to do it because this is just how I was raised. And this is how he's going to do it. That's just because how he was raised. You have to come to a place where you create your own. And you have to be like, listen, if what's going to make our marriage successful, creating our own way to communicate, if that's going to make our marriage successful, then let's do that. Right. Even if we don't know how, the fact that we're open to do it and the fact that God has blessed it, then he's going to make sure that we get to a place that is successful when it comes to communicating when we are angry and when we are not angry.
Because here's the thing. You have to remember that although we come from two different, basically, whenever you get married, it's not just two people getting married. Whenever you get married, it's not just two people coming together. It is literally two kingdoms colliding together. Mm-hmm. Meaning that you're taking what I know a lot of people saying, don't you bring no baggage into this relationship. Here's the truth. You bring baggage whether you want to or not. You bring baggage whether you're aware of it or not. And so her baggage was her background. My baggage was my background. And baggage is not just a bad thing. It doesn't have to be, since you're bringing baggage, it's just bad stuff. No. Baggage can be good.
Some people bring some real good baggage.
Yeah, I mean, some Louis and, all that stuff. Yeah, Prada and all that thing.
Some people bring some, and it makes marriages really successful.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to understand that when it comes to that, you're not unpacking your baggage alone when you get married. You have to intentionally do it together. Because there are certain things where it's going to be certain things revealed in that baggage that you would have never met or found out unless you did it together. I really believe that the Lord allows certain issues to arise in a marriage and certain problems to happen so that way we get to know, not only just know each other, not just I can learn her in that light, but also that we can see each other, see ourselves. Because there are certain things we try to cover up. There are certain things we try to overlook. There are certain things we try to go past and say, I'm okay, or this doesn't matter to me. But honestly, I have to stand back at certain things and be like, wait, did I really say that? Did I really do that? Yeah. And I mean that it's just a real deal because, and again, we're not perfect when it comes to marriage. We don't have the perfect marriage. But one thing I will say is that we strive every single day, every hour, every minute, every second to have an actual marriage that lines up with the Bible. We try to have a marriage that lines up with Scripture. I mean, I'm going to say this, especially in the time we're living in, a lot of marriage advice says, don't go to sleep mad. Don't go to sleep mad. I'm telling you now.
Right.
Heart,
Pastor, can I say this too about the baggage before you
go?
One thing that I wanted to hit on when Pastor was talking about baggage is that marriage exposes you. Marriage exposes. Eventually, when whatever baggage you are bringing to the table, whatever, you do have to help each other unpack that baggage. You do have to help each other gather what you have, no matter what's inside of it. That
Let me
the
say this:
part
not
that
only do you have to help each other unpack it, but you also have to help each other put it in the right place.
place.
Because understand, there are certain things in her baggage that she brought into the marriage that she wasn't even aware of, and so with that happening, I had to help her put it in the right category. Because if not, we can get the right thing, and if it's in
Same
the
way.
wrong place, it's still gonna be out of order. Same thing with me. There were certain things that I didn't even
Yeah.
know that was in me
Yeah,
until
and
certain things arose.
that's something that my brother Andrew Pickens shared with me before. I don't think it was. I think it was a little before I got married, or maybe the first year that we were married. He said, "Sis, marriage exposes you," and that is so true. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't know it as much as I do now from experience. Marriage will expose every single part of you. I don't care whether it's good, bad, ugly, indifferent, it will, and you have to be at a place where you're willing to not make permanent what shouldn't be permanent.
Right. Right. That's now. Listen, uh, we about to. I think it's one more question, and I say again, if you have any questions for the next couple of minutes, go ahead and put it in the chat so we can answer them too. Or if it's something that you want us to talk about or hit on, put it in the chat. Um, and so the question was, there's one question asking, do we have date nights? Not right now.
Yeah, we
I
got
won't even
to.
lie to you. We don't have date nights right now. For several reasons. Main thing is because trying to make sure that we balance everything out. Now, I can't say no all the way because it depends on what you determine as a date. I mean, because lately our date nights, quote unquote, has been binge watching certain shows. Like we love the show Blind Spot
It's over now,
to the
but
point where it feels like something is missing in our life because we've finished
that was
everything
our
all season.
show too.
And then now we're on The Resident now.
Yes.
And so there's certain times where she tells me, and here's some things, I'm not gonna lie. She is a lot of times where she has to tell me to put down my phone because I'll be unconscious. I'll be texting some of our leaders. I'll be working on a project. I'll be doing some work or whatever. And sometimes you have to have somebody. Let me tell you this too, men and women, especially those who are entrepreneurs, those who are business savvy, those who are called to do something big in life. It is okay to have that person in your life that tells you when enough is enough, when to take a break, when to unwind, when to unplug, when to just breathe. You need that because whether you know it or not, if you keep on running, you're going to eventually start running off fumes and you're going to eventually give out. Well, that's a big deal. So that's something I wanted to share. That's concerning our date night. So no, we don't have it officially. Officially, we don't have an official date night, but we are working on that, and especially dealing with the baby, depending on how everything goes with that. That determined, but it doesn't. It's no excuse why we don't. I'm not gonna lie to you and say, oh, we don't have it because of COVID.
You need to have it.
Because you can have a date night at home. There's no excuse not to have a date night.
Yeah.
But like I said, it depends on what you consider a date. What do you consider a date?
Well, what do I consider a date? I consider a date. They don't always have to be dressed up or, but take me somewhere and don't. I don't like interruptions. I'm the kind of person I just don't want our time to be interrupted. I don't want a text message. I don't want wrong breath to interrupt our time together, because I am a person who values the time that I spend with people when I'm with them. Sometimes I will miss calls. I will, and it's not always intentionally, but I am a person who lives in that moment at that moment. And I really believe that that's very important because dating your spouse, we've seen so many people pass away. We've seen so many people, um, just in the past year, spouses and children
Crazy.
And so
Passed
even
away, and we've seen people getting divorced who haven't even
that
been
we've
together for
seen
a year. I mean,
people like
several marriages, not just one or two. Several marriages have divorced,
in
and
under
it's
a
a big
year,
under a
over
year.
25
Oh,
years, over 30 years. So for me, it's very vital
yeah,
not to have interruptions. To me, a date is uninterrupted time
yeah.
with my
And I will
spouse.
say one thing that's different about us that she had to help me out with, and even I help her out with, is the fact that she is more of a let's live in a moment person, whereas I'm more of a let's plan for the future or let's get to the future
All the time.
all the time.
He's like a chicken with his head cut off.
A lot of times. So that I'm more future centric. I'm more future focused, and she is more let's live for now. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so that which is a big deal because that had to help me because if not, I'll be so future focused that I would have no good for right now, and I would really literally overlook things and miss things if I wasn't careful. So I'm grateful for that too.
Yeah, and there are like several reasons why I am the way that I am. Even growing up, I was more that I was always, it's always been valuable to me. And so every single moment that I do get the opportunity to spend with my spouse or my children or even without the kids, with him. When we put our son to sleep, I have a specific time that he goes to bed because after that, me and dad get to
Because you
hang
got to
out. Me and
remember,
dad get to watch the
he's
rest of
only
the.
babe. He's only here, and she's only pregnant because of what we put in together. That so don't let the kids actually take away the joy of being married. Like although they are a great asset, they are not your marriage. They're not the one that you made the vow to. They're not the one you got married to.
They're the fruit of your
They're the
marriage.
fruit
So that's almost
of your
like trying to say your children are the fruit of your marriage, but that's almost trying to say you can have the fruit without planting the seed. You
right.
can't.
You can't.
There's no way you
And
can
that
do
which
that.
is why you got to make sure. And I'm about to answer that too. Which is why you have to make sure that your marriage is not centered around your
Your
kids.
children.
Your marriage cannot be centered around other people
Don't let
because people are gonna come and go. Your kids are gonna get older and they're gonna move out the house. And then what do you have after that?
the
You
two of you.
we have stood. Lady and I have literally stood through heartache. We've stood through pain. We've stood through curses being spoken of our marriages or of our marriage. We stood through like anything and everything you can think of. And for that to happen, that's been keeping us and motivating us to keep on going. To answer the question is asking. So, are you saying that you don't have to wait until you are fully uprooted from the past things before you get married? That is not what we're saying.
Yeah, no. You
Um,
have to make sure. Okay, go.
I'm gonna say this: if the reason why you need to be uprooted from that is because what you're going to do is you're going to try to pull that into your marriage and make your marriage that place. There's a difference. Let me say it like this. Let me make it clear and plain. There's a difference between getting married with baggage and getting married while still rooted in something.
No, no, no. There's a
I'm saying,
difference between getting married with baggage and then there's a difference between getting married and still living in two separate places.
which
Because the thing is when it comes to baggage is definitely temporary. I would not encourage anybody to get married with baggage, but everybody has a level of baggage that they carry, whether it is self inflicted or
yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. Whether it is self inflicted or whether it is, when it comes to, okay, say for instance, my baggage would be, okay, I've got to figure out how to communicate. And granted, you can get married without no baggage. There's a way that you can get married without negative
without
baggage,
negative baggage.
negative baggage coming to your marriage because everybody brings something to the table when it comes to being married. Everybody brings something to everybody is bringing something. You're gathering something when you get married. But when it comes to actually bringing, negative things into your marriage, um, first of all, premarital counseling. Do premarital
Let me say this
counseling.
too, because
And before you get in a relationship, I'm sorry, Pastor.
mm,
Again, you can't be rooted in
no,
the same.
I mean, for clarity, You can get married with while still being rooted. You can get married while still being a whore. You can get married while still being whatever you want to be. You can, but is it wise counsel to do so? Absolutely not. The reason why we
Not
can't say you
wise to
can't
do that.
is because we can't say you can't because you can do all things. You can do whatever you want. God gave you the power of choice. God gave you the power to
Free
decide.
will.
You have free will. So it's not the fact you can't, but because the judge is not going to ask you that when you stand, but when you get your license, your marriage certificate, the judge is not going to care whether you have marriage baggage
Not
or not.
really.
But what I am going to say is this: it is imperative. I admonish you to get together everything you can before trying to get married. I'm gonna say this: no matter
Unpack
before
everything.
you doing before you look to get married, make sure that you are okay. Make sure that you are sane. Make sure you are whole. Make sure you are together. Because here's the truth: if you're looking for your spouse to actually make you whole, then you're looking for the wrong thing. I'm saying if you're looking, I did not come in this marriage thinking
I
that
didn't
my
hear.
wife is gonna make me whole because that's not her job. Her job was not to make me whole. Her job was not to fix me. Her job was not to make everything all right. Her job was not to make it seem like you are completing me. I like
Right.
it sounds good. Oh yeah, you complete me. It sounds great.
It's cute.
But if you're my other half, then that means that we're still not whole because that means that if you are half and I'm half, we're whole together, but we're not whole on our own, meaning that
Yes.
we can't live. So what happens when your wife is not around? What happens if your half is not there? It's not a thing of saying, okay, you complete me. No, God made you whole. Because if somebody else can complete you, then that means that you're saying that God didn't complete you. That God did something wrong. God left something out. God put something apart. Are you supposed to look for your wife? Yeah. Are you supposed to look for? I mean, is your husband supposed to look for you? Yeah. But you got to understand. Here's the thing. You have to understand that you being rooted in something is number one a decision. You decide where you get rooted.
Exactly.
You may not decide where you get planted, but you decide where you take root. Because if you can take root in that situation, then that means you also have the choice to get out of it.
And the thing is too, when you are preparing for marriage, the process beforehand is really
Oh,
critical.
it's vital.
And
It's vital.
if you are careful, you can, because I wanted to rephrase what I said as far as baggage, because you can go into a marriage without any baggage because
Just a little bit.
that person could have helped you unpack the baggage in premarital counseling. That person could have helped you when it comes to,
We
because
went
the
we
thing
went
is
through
we
two
went through two
years
years of
of premarital
premarital
counseling
counseling.
just to make sure.
And still there was something I had to carry on. Yeah, I didn't have a full suitcase, but you might have a little carry on, and that carry on,
There's a personal item.
it's a personal item in the carry on, and you got to make sure, when you get before you get to the aisle, if you can unpack and see, that is a perfect thing for a counselor. It's a perfect thing for you to really hone in and focus on your relationship with God while you are in that single place, because again, people do get married rooted into other stuff, but do you know what their marriage turns into? It turns into just what they ran from, or just what they thought would change because of marriage.
So their
And
foundation becomes their ceiling.
yep, the foundation becomes their ceiling, and not
They
only
don't grow.
does that happen, but they end up planting a seed that sprouts into something that looks nothing like they wanted it to look, because they did not properly unpack the baggage. They did not take the steps. They did not stay consistent. They did not stay honest with themselves. They did not. So you really have to be at a place of honesty with yourself before you get married.
And I'm gonna say this, and then we get ready to go. If you cannot be held accountable
Hey, Bucky.
beyond your offense, don't get married.
Yeah, because you got to have somebody that's going to tell you. You have to have some, and this is not just the spouse, but the counselor. If the counselor can't say, nope, without you being like,
wise
what? Or if the person that God has sent to counsel you, this is what I'm talking about with the self accountability, because you have to be able to be accountable enough when it comes to your relationship with God, and when it comes to you actually just being accountable and being not just accountable to, are you actually knowing, or even then I'm trying to say exposing what happens is in that process. It exposes if you are being selfish in this process, and what is my real motive to get married. What
That's
is
it. Don't listen. If they act a certain way before they get married, do not get married with the thought or the mindset of saying, "Oh, I'm going to be able to change them." That is the worst thing that you can do. If they talk a certain way, if they treat their mama a certain way, listen. Don't get in marriage thinking, "Oh, I can change them." That's Don't get into marriage just to try to change somebody.
right?
Don't fool around with that. Look at the patterns. Look at that. Don't even just look at the potential. Look at the patterns as well, so that way you get to know who they really are. Because they may say one thing with their mouth, but then act a whole different way with their actions. So just be careful with that. But I'm gonna let it go because I want you. I got a good message for Sunday. I believe I got a good message for this Sunday, and this is just a start. We want to just come and talk tonight. But I want you to join me Sunday morning. Join us Sunday morning at 11 a.m. here on the same channel, same page, because we're kicking off our actual first love series tonight. But Sunday morning, I got a real good message. I kind of want to give out the title right now, but then again, it's like I don't know. I don't know. Nah, I'm not gonna do it. Come Sunday, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this and about how God actually wants to complete you before you look at somebody else to complete you.
Yep.
So I'm gonna deal with it a little bit, but we're gonna have fun. So listen, I love y'all. I hope you have a
Yes.
great evening. Thank y'all so much for joining us. I hope that this conversation was impactful. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope that you learned something. I hope you gathered something. I hope you had some fun, and I'm sure you probably laughed a little bit. I told y'all we're goofy. I'm a little bit more goofy than she is, but I mean you got to do something to keep your love alive. Because here's the thing.
You say you're more goofy than me.
I think I am.
It depends on the time.
Yeah. But I'm gonna say this. This is the last thing.
Y'all.
Don't be so caught up in loving the person. You got to know how to love the person and still be in love with the person. The longer you get married, you got to learn that. You got to be able to stay with that.
You
So
mean
listen.
the longer you are married.
Yeah, that thing. See.
Love you too, Auntie Chichi.
Love all of y'all.
Of course, Lucretia. Oh, Destiny. She did my nails, y'all. Be on the lookout.
Uh-oh. See. Listen, I love y'all. I can't wait to see y'all Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if y'all gonna join me Sunday morning, just drop it in the chat. Let me know if you're gonna be on Sunday morning. Make me feel good at least a little bit. Let us feel something. Let us know you're gonna be on there Sunday morning. We got 11 o'clock a.m.
Oh, also, if you have like any advice that stood out to you, post it.
Yeah, post
anything
it.
that you like, anything, post it. Yeah, definitely post it. We love y'all so much, and again, like Pastor said, we'll see y'all on Sunday. If you're gonna be there, please share. Excuse me. If you're gonna be there, please share it. Please, if you like to share this video, or if you have anything that you want to ask us, even after this video, you can keep asking us questions and we can keep answering.
Yeah, no, don't. You don't have to stop asking questions. But I love y'all. You have a good one.